Hello YouTubers, I'm Colin and this is TamiyaTruckBuilding. If you've been following along, you'll know I'm about 80% through the build now of the Tamiya Volvo FH12. All of the mechanical and electrical stuff has been covered off. I'm just left with building up the cab and the front panel. I would normally paint decal and fit the dash and seats, but for some strange reason best known only to Tamiya, they've pre-painted the windows with TS71 smoke. As you can see, that's the tint colour, which is equivalent to a set of dark privacy windows you'd see on some vehicles. Ordinarily I would not spray the cab windows so you can see inside, but on this build I don't have a choice. There's always the option of getting another sprue set with clear perspex, I suppose, so I'm going to look into that. I still plan to fit the dash and seats despite this. Anyway, just thought I'd mention that, as a lot of modelers do not spray the cab windows. There are 59 sections in this build, and in this episode I'm completing sections 44 to 48. So let's get on with it. Okay, here's the roof. This is going to be the first part to be fitted. It's a little plug-in section on the back of the roof. I'm not quite sure why they have these 5 holes in the back of the roof, possibly to run cables through or such like. But what Tamiya tell you to do is to just cut some very small pieces of double-sided tape, which is provided, put it on the panel and stick it in place. Right, here we go. Just lining it up properly. This double-sided tape's pretty effective, and once it sticks, it sticks. So that's covered that off quite nicely. Now there's another plug-in part to be fitted, which goes in the back of the cab. You can see it there, right hand corner. You would not fit this if you were fitting the socket for the trailer plug. We're not doing so, but I mean this is removable at any stage anyway, so I've painted it. Again, just put in a little bit of double-sided tape on it. It's got a couple of lugs to locate it in place. Try and line it up properly. Push it in. Now I'm not fitting a speaker in the roof because this is a budget build and we're not using a sound unit, but if you were, you would be fitting it in the roof before you connect the top section onto the cab. The top section, as you can see, is held on with 4 screws, 4 of the BC2 3x8 self-tapping screws, 1 in each corner, which holds it quite firmly. Then just to check all round to make sure that it's seated properly, which it is. You can just see the screws there. Right, in the next section now, section 45, we need to build the air cleaner assembly, which, as you can see in the inset, is made up of 4 parts. two on the roof, then a couple of sections that go down around the back of the vehicle. I'm going to glue them together using Tamiya cement. If you're just doing plastic to plastic with this stuff, it does stick quite well and quite quickly. Just a colin tip, if it's got paint on it, it does not stick very well. So if you've got any where you need to put two surfaces together of painted products, you're best to scrape the paint off. Otherwise you'll sit there for a few minutes trying to get it to glue. It tends to dissolve the paint and not glue. Now the next section, a 90-degree section, gets glued on. That's from the air cleaner, which is on the roof, to the down stack or the up stack, whichever way you look at it. Again, doesn't take long for that to stick. Now we'll pop a bit more glue on and glue the upright stack to the roof section. There we go. This whole assembly is fitted onto the back of the cab with two fairly long screws and two nuts on the inside. There are pre-drilled holes in the back of the cab for it. There you go, just line them up. Pop the nuts on underneath. Get a screwdriver and do them up. There we go. In section 46 we're going to fit the mounting plate, if you want to call it that, on the back of the cab, which sits onto the section on the chassis where you'll be putting a big spring clip through. There's a couple of pieces of foam pad to go on it first, which is quite aesthetic. It stops it clanking and banging when you shut them together. And it's held on just on the back, lower back of the cab, as you can see here, with two 3/8 self-tapping screws. The little knob part that you can see standing up has got a hole in it, and that's where the spring clip goes through to secure it into place. There we go. Also in this section we're going to be fitting the screen. That's got 4 screws. Actually it's got 2 self-tapping screws at the top to hold it into place, and it's got 2 pins and nuts at the bottom. I can't really show you here, I'm sorry, but you may just be able to see it through the window. But I'm just putting the self-tapping screws into the top, and I'm only doing them up loosely just so that I can hold the screen in place. As with other parts, I like to get all the screws, nuts, pins, bolts in place first before you start doing them up. They're quite small, 2mm screws. They go through the front panel, through the perspex, and there's a little tiny nut to go on the back. And I use a little spanner that they provide, because trying to put it on by fingers is pretty challenging. That's one done. Once I've got both of these in and tightened up, I can now go back to the 2 screws. You can just see one of them at the top there, which now need pulling down. and that will hold the screen in place. There you go. Now in this section 47 we're going to build the mirror assemblies and arms, and also the tilt stay which you will be fitting, which will allow the cab to tilt forward but only to a certain amount. There's these two little parts, one goes inside the other, then the peg slots through it, and there's a very, very small, strange sized nut that goes on the end. Even in the diagram they tell you to use a pair of pliers because there isn't a spanner that fits this nut. Just enough for it to lock into the nylock nut, and that's it done. You'll see that again later on when we come to fit it. Here's the first of two mirror assemblies. The arm that goes through the cab, top and bottom, is effectively clamped to the actual mirror with two very small 2mm screws. I've used a toothpick on the one side just to line up a very small bracket they give you. You can adjust the tension of these screws. You obviously don't want them too loose because the mirror would flap about. Too tight and you won't be able to move it, so just adjust it so that, as I'm doing there, you can move it with a reasonable amount of resistance. I'm going to do the other one exactly the same in a minute. They also give you two little caps, plastic caps, which the instructions tell you to glue on the back. So I'm just going to pop a touch of super glue on those. Could use a Tamiya glue, I suppose. Sorry you can't see this, but it's just literally a very small cap covering the two screws. There you go. I'm just holding it down for a second with my pliers. Number two, exactly the same. Now just putting two nuts on initially on the threaded arms of the mirror. You wind these on as far as they'll go. You'll see why shortly. I'm just trying to put that little plastic cap on the back, same as the other one. And then last but not least, we glue the mirror lenses in front. It's worth just checking that they fit in place flush first. Now I'm going to use contact to clear here, which I like because it doesn't leave any residue on silver mirror type surfaces or the clear perspex. That's the one. Just leave that to dry. Just take just a fraction longer to dry this, but it's well worth it. There we go. That's the mirrors ready to be put onto the cab. The first thing we're going to do, and there's the picture, is we're going to fit this stay arm which goes onto the side of the truck. Onto the off side of the truck there are two holes in the plastic, and two 2mm self-tapping screws go through and hold the little black plastic part in place. The hook part you can see on the left will be bolted down to the chassis in a later build section. Just for the moment I'm just having fun getting these two little screws in place. Once they're done up, that's as far as we go with that arm, and then we're going to move on to some windows. Two more windows to fit yet, which are the near side and off side cab windows. I've just dropped that one in position at the moment. There's nothing holding it there at all. What does hold it in place is the mirror. Now, one of the arms on the mirror is slightly longer than the other. If you have a look at the diagram you'll see that. Make sure the longer side goes up. That way the arm remains vertical. If you put it on the other way, the arm is at a strange angle. Now you can see why the two nuts were put on first, because you push that bracket in as far as it will go, and then you put 2 more nuts on the inside, and it holds the mirror arm and the perspex window in place in one fell swoop. Using my little 2mm tool again to just do up the nuts, and there you are. That's one done, and the other side will be the same. Pop the perspex window into place first, drop the arm through, or both arms through, put the screws on, or put the nuts on. Getting all my words wrong. Putting all the nuts on, do them up, and there you have it. Thank you for watching. That's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click on the like button, and if you want to see more of my build videos, please subscribe to my channel. Bye for now.